All right, we're getting ready for Ole Miss versus Arkansas. Trinidad Chambliss, Austin Simmons. The question is out there. There's been reports all over. I'll explain kind of what I've noticed this week as well and why it really didn't get solved until Chris Lowe and Pete Thamel got a hold of it today. So we will talk to Mike Huseman from Off Season After Dark. We will talk to Hammer from Biscuits and SEC as we handle this Ole Miss Arkansas game coming up in 2 hours' time. So stick around for that.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports and a former Ole Miss staff member. We bring in Mike Huseman on this episode, and Hammer from Biscuits and SEC is going to be on this episode. We're going to talk about the Ole Miss quarterback situation a little bit. I hope Hammer did his homework on that. It looks like Trinidad Chambliss is going to start the game. That doesn't mean that Austin Simmons is not available. And this is what happened to the best of my knowledge. First of all the way until this morning, Austin Simmons camp kind of thought they were going to end up starting the game. This morning, Pete Thamel put out that it was going to be a game time decision. They were going to warm up. Chris Lowe just pointed out that he's hearing different things. And the reason they're hearing that stuff is because of the walkthrough this morning. Trinidad Chambliss took reps with the number one offense. Now, Austin Simmons is cleared according to the availability report. You might have seen that over the course of the last 2 days. But this is a game that you're playing against the team that the weak point is their defensive line. So if you have that and you have a running quarterback and the quarterback run is going to feature prominently, that might have something to do with it. It also might be similar to what happened in 2021, if you remember that. Matt Corral got hurt against Tennessee on the very last play, a situation really similar to what Austin went through, and he was not right the rest of the season. They didn't rest him like they should. They played that game, Ole Miss ended up losing that game. They won 10 games that season in the regular season, but that game likely cost them potentially a playoff spot. So there is a little bit of scar tissue that's being dealt with on both sides. So let's bring in Mike Huseman and Hammer about this game. Also, this episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. Gentlemen, thank you so much for stopping by as we're getting really close to kickoff. I know Hammer is waiting until 6:30 so he can cut on Peacock or whatever streaming service that is on for a really big game there. Mike Huseman's talking about guests that he might have in the coming weeks for Off Season After Dark. How you doing, gentlemen?
Glad to be here. Doing well.
Yeah, doing very well. It's already been a fun day, so excited for what the rest of Saturday holds.
I usually don't get this way, but the nerves are setting in for the Cox game a little bit tonight. I don't know. It's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, it is going to be a really fun one. And it's weird that Vanderbilt's the team that has you nervous. I mean, that's kind of funny in and of itself.
Yeah.
And, Alabama looked like they kind of fixed some stuff. Now, granted, it was Wisconsin, and Wisconsin was a god-awful football program. Don't get me wrong. But they looked all right. Auburn looked a little shaky. Oklahoma looked good. All in all, the beginning of the SEC slate looked as we expected, and Georgia is starting to kind of assert themselves after getting off to a wobbly start.
Yeah, that what was it, the second Tennessee touchdown, the kind of underthrown deep ball.
Yeah.
I saw that and just thought, well, finally they're taking shots downfield. But as you said, Steve, it not to give Georgia an excuse because the DB got worked on that, but it's not like he wasn't in position to make a play, especially when it was underthrown. It just it broke Tennessee's way. But that's a dogfight right now. I mean, 21-14, it's anybody's ball game.
You had mentioned Oklahoma, Steve. The the naysayers after last week against Michigan were saying they're good at everything, but they need to get a run game. They ran for 228 yards today against Temple and showed that. Temple's a pretty good team. They're for a G5 team. They're going to be much improved. They've looked pretty good with Casey Keeler as the new head coach so far.
Yeah, interesting day. And Ole Miss fans have been paying attention to everything's going on because of this quarterback quandary. I'm not 100% sure. I tried to explain before I came on with y'all the way this went down this week as far as I heard it. But it looks like, at least at the beginning of the game, Austin Simmons is going to be available, I guess, probably in case of an emergency. But Trinidad Chambliss is going to start the game. Now, this is a player that when he was a D2 quarterback last year, because he was a D2 quarterback, he threw for nearly 3,000 yards with 26 touchdowns, and he ran for 1,019 and 25 touchdowns. This is an extremely athletic guy that can do a lot of stuff. And when you're playing against a team that the weak point of that team seems to be the defensive line, I think Trinidad Chambliss was going to get a role even if Austin Simmons was healthy because of that fact.
Yeah, it seems like kind of what you were saying, Steve. It seems like because of this matchup and Chambliss' experience that Kiffin feels comfortable giving him the ball and like keeping Simmons on the sideline in a break glass in case of emergency type of scenario where he kind of thinks it feels like we I like this backup. I like the matchup. If Simmons isn't 100%, we have a long season. Maybe we can at home work our way through this game and keep Simmons healthy down the road as opposed to trying to push him back when he's not 100%. So I guess we'll see, like you said, if they're going to lean heavy on the run game, the Lacey has been phenomenal and we'll see what Chambliss can do with his legs. But I don't discount or disagree anything Lane Kiffin wants to do with the quarterback, at least up front. I mean, maybe this will come back to bite him, but if he's making this decision, then I'm not going to sit here and question it on the outset because I think he knows what he's doing in that regard.
Yeah, Mike, this is not something that is without risk either. I mean, that's the important thing to realize. The next pass he throws against an SEC team will be Trinidad Chambliss's first. So all the potential and all the talent in the world, you still have to do it. It's going to be a D2 quarterback stepping up into SEC competition. Yeah,
and I most of our viewers are probably unfamiliar with D2 football. At the lower levels, it's different from FBS, FCS in that you have more fluidity. The Ferris State, where he was last year, D2 national champs, they've won it 2 of the last 3 years. It's the D2 thing is it's not a one size fits all. That team was as good as most FCS teams. Like it's a pretty high level that he's played at. But you're right. Nobody makes that jump to a power conference without having some, growing pains, so to speak. I don't think it's a matter of if they happen. It's can Lane Kiffin and their team minimize how much those growing pains hurt them when it happens and put him in the right situation so it doesn't hurt as much.
Yeah, and when we come back, we'll talk about the defense in this game because this is going to be a Pete Golding game, and we are going to talk, as Hammer mentioned, Kewan Lacey as soon as we come back. But first, I do want to tell you about Mazda. Mazda moving the game forward is for those who believe it's not just about playing the game. It's about redefining it. There are moments that do much more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward is early in the game against Kentucky. All of a sudden, Kewan Lacey broke across a 20-yard run, that explosive, on a day when Kewan Lacey would end up with 130 yards and a touchdown. For the Rebels in their road opener, got the win 30-23. After a slow start in that game, Ole Miss kind of took over, outscoring the Cats 30-13 to close it out as well. And a lot of that was on Kewan Lacey. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to every Mazda vehicle. Move and be moved. Do us a favor, like, subscribe, and comment on the video. Subscribe to the podcast on whatever audio podcast you're listening to and give it a 5-star review. It costs nothing, keeps everything free. If you want more, join the Insiders program in the subtext link down below. No trolls, 14-day free trial, and the easiest way ever to cancel. So give it a try. And don't forget to check out a second listen on the network. Nearly every team, college or pro, is ready for you. All right, so this game, because of that, we talked about the defensive line in the first segment. This game is going to come down to Kewan Lacey likely. He has been the most important weapon for Ole Miss offensively coming into this game, but he is going to be the one that is going to be asked to kind of move the team forward to basically overcome some of those growing pains that Trinidad Chambliss might have. It's going to also be very important that you don't have many penalties and get behind the sticks to help out the young quarterback and allow the running game to thrive. I think if Trinidad Chambliss is on the field, it's going to be more important than ever that Ole Miss kind of stays ahead of the chains in this game. Mike?
Yeah, I think that's, you said it best, before we entered, that one thing that Ole Miss has going for them in this situation is the weakness of Arkansas's team has been their D-line so far. Arkansas State, last week, a team who will be all right in the Sun Belt, far less talented than Ole Miss, ran for over 150 yards on them, and were able to establish some ground game. And you think Ole Miss is going to have to do that, if they want to. I also wonder, will Logan Diggs or Damian Taylor see some, if they're going to be running the ball as much as we think, does that put the other running backs in the game as well as a change of pace?
Yeah, that seems like a very real thing. And what else is in the Lane Kiffin quiver, essentially, for what could happen? What kind of special things do you see that you've never seen an Ole Miss team do? Hammer, like I call it the Lane Kiffin triple option. And you saw it in his early days at FAU. Yeah. You've seen it once or twice at Ole Miss, but it's a jet sweep as option one. It's the inside zone play to the running back option 2, and the quarterback keep option 3. It's the Lane Kiffin triple option. I think with a quarterback like Trinidad Chambliss, there's a chance that appears in this game.
I would agree because, like you said, Steve, I mean, just thinking about the matchup here. So Arkansas, of course, knows what they're weak at, and if they've got a backup quarterback, they're probably going to load the box as much as they can until Chambliss beats them downfield. So if you're Lane Kiffin and you're trying to stay ahead of the change, knowing you're probably going to see more compact boxes from Arkansas, you got to give them eye candy, misdirection, and just get them out of position so that you can pick up 3, 4, 5, 6 yards on first down and get yourself into those manageable positions so that with a backup quarterback, you can be comfortable, either trying to run it again for the first down or taking a shot, midway or full shot downfield because, especially with Kiffin and his propensity of going for it on fourth, it's like, okay, we still have multiple downs to get this. I think, as you said, where you get in trouble is, if they can't get a ground game established and you are looking at second and third and longs, then, Chambliss could deliver and they'll be fine. We just really don't know.
Yeah, and this is a game that even before all of this craziness happened towards the end of the week, I said that it was important not to turn over the ball against Arkansas, not to give them short fields. Even go for it or whatever. If you're on your side of the 50, do not give them the ball with short fields. Make them have to drive 75, 80 yards each and every time, or else you're going to be in trouble. Trinidad Chambliss throwing the ball, that means avoiding long yardage situations because as a D2 quarterback moving up, like I said, his next SEC pass will be his first. And it's going to be a big deal. Now, the other side of the coin is, let's say the worst happens in this game to where Arkansas scores a couple of touchdowns early. It's kind of the same thing as the Kentucky game in revert, with Arkansas. I think at that point you have to put Austin Simmons out there and roll the dice because this is a massively important game. Georgia is good. Georgia looks good, but Georgia looks beatable. LSU, after Clemson looked horrible again for the third straight week, that win all of a sudden doesn't look as impressive. This Arkansas game is massive, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where any chance you have to stay in a game and win in the conference, you have to pull all stops. Like you can't risk a guy if he can play. If his injury is teetering on, if it gets worse, he could miss significant time. That's a different story. But if he is okay to play with some discomfort, you have to play him if it's going to give you the best chance to win, and you're behind the 8 ball and down.
Yeah, and it should be pretty good. 8 minutes to go in the second quarter. Texas has beaten UTEP 7-0.
Yeah.
By the way, yeah, that's So obviously, all things are not right there either. Tennessee looked, Tennessee looked really good. Georgia looks like they're slowly starting to establish control in this ball game as well.
UTEP was just driving, by the way, and Malachi Nelson threw an interception. So
I didn't even realize he's at UTEP. That is that's a name from
talk about that quarterback matchup. Malachi Nelson versus Arch Manning, and everybody's like, whoa, this is going to be a quarterbacking masterpiece.
I saw
top
Miami
3 QB recruits the same year as each other.
I know. It was something that everybody is like would be looking all about this game.
Yeah. Sorry to cut you off there, Hammer. What were you saying?
Oh, I was just going to say Miami looks pretty good so far against USF. Carson Beck. I was kind of doubting Beck, not because of his ability after he left Georgia, but I didn't know what to think of that injury and with him, missing time. But early returns he looks pretty good. I think he's got 2 touchdowns already, and they're up 14-0.
Yeah, the ACC championship game, the leader in the clubhouse for that right now is probably the winner of the Miami-Florida State game in Georgia Tech.
Easily. Yeah. Georgia Tech. I mean, they just
Louisville's going to be a wild card because their schedule's pretty favorable and they're going to win a lot of games.
Yeah. Brown's a good coach too.
Yeah. Everybody thought Duke was going to be all right, but turns out Duke's just kind of Duke.
Yeah. Paid a lot of money for a quarterback, but that's about it.
And they were good last year because Manny Diaz had defensive players that fit his system perfectly. A lot of those guys graduated and are gone. So,
yes, and the coach that recruited those guys is sitting at Texas A&M right now.
Yeah.
So
True. We'll
see exactly how that goes. Anyway, this is a big game for Ole Miss. We talked about it. It's a massive, absolutely massive game, and it's going to fall down on Kejuan Lacey. We talked about that, but Pete Golding. And Pete Golding has not had the most success against Bobby Petrino over the last 2 tries. There was the Texas A&M game in 2023 when Bobby Petrino turned Max Johnson into the left-handed Tom Brady in the second half of that game, and it took a blocked field goal to stunt that comeback. And last year, as talented as Ole Miss was, Arkansas managed to score 31 points in that game, a lot of that with a backup quarterback. We always talk about this game, how much weird stuff happens, and it is completely set up to be absolutely bonkers yet again. But I think this is massive for Bobby Petrino to take away the running game, the running back run game. Make Taylon Green beat you. I know that sounds weird because he has 10 touchdown passes and he's ran for 150 yards against Arkansas State. Make him have a special day to beat you and take away Mike Washington. Am I right, Hammer?
Yeah, I would agree. And I think one more thing to add to that is keep Taylon Green in the pocket. He's decent, with a legitimate quarterback run, but I worry more about him just making plays downfield when he escapes the pocket. So I think if you're Uman Mielen coming off the edge, right, you have to make sure you're keeping the edge, keeping your, lane and gap integrity when you're rushing the passer, because I think what Taylon Green can do is affect you when he gets out of the pocket and it kind of becomes a scramble drill downfield. I think you're right. If you can stop the traditional running back ground game and then keep him in the pocket and make him beat you from there, then I think you've got a good, a good game plan and a good system to keep that offense in check. Because I think, what you mentioned with Petrino, I mean, he will scheme guys up, and he's good at manipulating the pocket, moving the pocket, and just trying to put your defense in uncomfortable matchups. So if you could dictate to them that you're not going to get outside of the pocket, you're not going to run, and get in these favorable second and third and shorts, then Ole Miss will be in a good spot.
All right, when we come back, we will talk about the rest of the SEC as a whole, finish up on this game that Ole Miss has coming up pretty shortly between the Ole Miss Rebels and the Arkansas Razorbacks, so stick around for that. All right, I want to tell you about Drip Drop, because when I'm on top of my hydration, I notice everything works better. My energy, my mood, my focus, even my skin. But getting enough fluids every day, that's not always the easiest thing. That's why I've been loving Drip Drop. Drip Drop is doctor-developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration. It uses a perfect balance of sodium electrolytes and glucose to help your body absorb fluids more quickly and delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of the leading sports drink. It uses the perfect balance, right? My go-to favorite right now is Cherry Limeade. It is a game changer after a hot walk in the Florida sun and has made the whole experience better. Right now, Drip Drop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head to dripdrop.com and put in the promo code Locked On College. That's all one word, Locked On College. Also, it's almost game time. Time to look back one last time to crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more and more money every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For Ole Miss, Harrison Wallace delivered in a big way. It was 4th and 1. It was going sideways. Ole Miss was down 10-0. When the pressure was on, he came through. No hesitation, no delay, and a 55-yard reception. It was pretty cool to see. And just like Harrison Wallace delivered for the Ole Miss Rebels, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday and keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period runs through November 18th. All right, so one thing that's really interesting to see, we're talking about how Georgia is kind of reestablishing control in this game, and it's interesting to see what happened. But after Tennessee got off to a really hot start in the game, he just couldn't do it. It just Georgia figured it out. They shut it down like they always do, and now it's a 21-17 war. And I like Georgia in this game in the second half. Tennessee let Georgia get comfortable, in my opinion. Hammer?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, Tennessee got off to a very hot start, and it wasn't, as I brought up before on that deep ball, it wasn't just a perfect play or a perfect pass. I mean, that the DB was in position, and they just got beat on a 50-50, and he just misplayed it and even interfered with the guy. But I don't know. I think Tennessee, to me, what I am interested to see in is how their defense responds here, because I'm with you that the Georgia defense looks to be settling in, and I don't know how much more Tennessee can get here. I think a touchdown, more than a touchdown, would be really, really good for them in the second half. So what can Tennessee's defense do to limit Georgia? Because similar to Tennessee, Georgia looked great on that first drive, and since then, they've done okay, but they're trying to manufacture some stuff, and they don't look quite as dangerous down the field as Tennessee was able to hit on some earlier. So if I were Heupel in this halftime, I would be harping on the defense of like, hey, we need you to hold them to, a touchdown or 10 points maybe, and we can win this game. But I just don't know how much more Tennessee's offense is going to be able to get.
Yeah, it feels like that Georgia's kind of inserted themselves on the offensive line. And after just a first quarter where Joey Aguilar was like 14 of 14 for 200 yards passing, it's been pretty much nothing. Tonight's games, before we get out of here, Vandy is at South Carolina. You mentioned that, Mike, a little bit earlier. What is your thoughts on that game? What concerns you the most?
I'm very excited about that game tonight. Honestly, for me, what worries me is the things that are obvious to even the casual fan. It's Lenore Sellers has been very average so far this year. He's not thrown the ball extremely well. He's ran and created well, but I think we had a conversation about this a few days ago. It looks like Mike Bobo hasn't quite figured out, Mike Shula hasn't quite figured out yet how to use him and what is the best way to utilize his skill set to make points. They've just been kind of coasting through their first two games. They're playing good on defense, and they've been the best special teams team in the country, and it's been enough so far. It won't be enough playing good SEC teams. Credit to Vandy, we're now calling them a good SEC team. They've done a good job.
Because they made Virginia Tech Hammer quit last Saturday. Like just straight up 10 minutes in the fourth quarter, they were just doing a Roberto Duran and saying no mas.
Yeah, that was eye-opening. And especially, Mike, as you mentioned, the South Carolina seems like they've kind of been coasting, and that was the one common opponent. We don't even have hardly any common opponents, nationwide at this point in the season. So to have that data point to compare definitely would worry me as a Gamecock, because what Vanderbilt did to Virginia Tech in the second half, I imagine when, assuming the Hokies don't get this figured out down the road or later this year, my hunch is when Brent Pry loses his job at Virginia Tech, that is the game they will point to and say, this is when it became like obvious that we have to move on, because what Vanderbilt.
When I do the weekly hot seat tomorrow for Mike Farrell Sports, he will be one or two on the list. It will be him and Deshaun Foster who are there. So Deshaun
Foster should be number one, and then it's like the Brad Pitt thing from Moneyball and 50 foot of crap, and then number two is on the list. Yeah. Getting rolled at home 35-10 by New Mexico. That's not on anybody's wish list.
No. So, and they just looked in it. They're on both sides of the line. They are awful. Like, people have been, maybe rightly so, dogging Nico a lot. He was okay last week. Their O-line is so bad. He has no time back there. And there's just nothing that team is doing effective right now.
Let me ask this question real quick before I let you guys go. Is LSU good? They've got a good defense, but Texas has a good defense. Texas isn't good.
Maybe it's what's good. It's an ambiguous word. What's good?
That's fair.
Yeah, it's one of those things. We talked about Hammer. He's going to break out a Fu Manchu if the facial hair if Texas gets beat by Texas A&M at the end of the season.
How shocked would any of us be if Florida wins tonight? I wouldn't be that surprised.
That's my point. I wouldn't, because last year Florida won because LSU was down an interior offensive lineman. Now, it looks like that guy might try to give it a go tonight against Florida, but he's not going to be 100%. He has a sprained ankle. He got it last week. So if Nuss doesn't have the time to pass the ball like he did a year ago, Florida had 8 sacks in this game last year. If that happens again, Florida will beat LSU in Tiger Stadium, and that's just going to throw the SEC into chaos, because the best two teams in the conference right now, as it sits, might be Oklahoma and whoever wins this Georgia-Tennessee game.
Yeah. And Missouri is a fairly close third probably right now. They're a good team.
Yeah, I said this before the season. They were the most underrated team in the Southeastern Conference.
Yeah.
And they are just destroying people right now. Anyway.
Ahmad Hardy had 250 yards today.
Yes. Yes. He had a pretty good day. Pretty good. They probably had that stretch zone working, as Eli Drinkwitz is known to do. Anyway, thank you so much for stopping by. We will talk to you in a little while. I will see you Thursday, okay?
Yep. Thanks for having us, Steve.
Thank you.
I'll be there. Yeah.
All right.
See you.
All right. Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves in offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we're the front door of Ole Miss. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. It helps the show, and it's totally free. Your support means the world to us. You know, in another big moment for Locked On, college football fans, Locked On and Fire TV are presenting College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation with two-time AP Coach of the Year, Gary Patterson, and former college star Jesse Holley, along with Locked On's panel of experts. A college football preview that only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every single Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. Hotty toddy, everybody. College Football Kickoff, it's on the YouTube page. If you want to see it, I put it up as soon as I can find it. Remember that analytics are just the old English word that means bad football. We'll see you tomorrow.